Ice mass measurement by NASA's satellite shows that the Antarctic and Greenland mass is declining at an unprecedented rate. Glaciers are also retreating almost everywhere, including the Alps, Himalayas, Andes, Rockies, Alaska, and Africa. Furthermore, oceans absorb almost 90% of the excess heat from the surrounding air, making it warmer. Although most of the heat is absorbed in the surface as the rate of warming increases, the heat permeates to deeper waters and harms marine ecosystems.
You know, when you hear, for instance, a scientist saying the science is settled, you know that person has stepped out of the science. I think that registers with ordinary people. And whenever you see someone say, instead of answering arguments, how could so many people agree if it weren't true? It should be a red flag. My view is one has conflated the trivial, which is that temperature is changing, climate is changing, man plays some role.
The first and most crucial aspect of recovery is awareness, namely understanding and spreading awareness about the risks associated with climate change. On a personal level, we could look at our transportation and power consumption habits. Since industrial and automobile emissions, along with the consumption of electricity, which is primarily generated by burning fossil fuels, are the most significant reasons for increasing carbon dioxide concentration in the atmosphere, rethinking these consumption patterns would make a measurable dent in our collective carbon emissions. Climate change is a real threat, but if we all come together, take a stand, and be more environmentally conscious in our decisions, we can still save our beautiful blue planet.
Sea level is a hard thing to measure, actually. At any given place, traditionally, sea level was measured by what are called tide gauges. A stick in the water, basically. And two things change what a tide gauge shows: the land moving up and down, and the sea moving up and down. Most places, it's the land that is the biggest effect. So you don't have a good measure of sea level rise. On the other hand, for the last 30 years or so, we've had satellite measurements that are actually measuring sea level. It's very hard to relate these two measurements to each other. The general feeling is there is no evidence that it's different now than it has been for the last few thousand years. Ever since the initial rapid rise after the deglaciation 12,000 years ago, the claim that we've suddenly seen a big change in that, given we've changed the instrumentation and given the error bars cover the difference, is not entirely fair. And to suggest that what's been going on for thousands of years is something we should suddenly be alarmed at also doesn't seem reasonable.
Carbon dioxide concentration is the highest among all greenhouse gases in the atmosphere. Therefore, it is a significant contributor to global warming. Since the Industrial Revolution, a drastic increase in economic activity has triggered a sharp uptick in carbon dioxide emissions worldwide. These emissions are higher than the amount that can be captured by the Earth's natural carbon cycle. This is why rising carbon dioxide emission is a point of great concern to every nation on the planet.
There are so many interesting questions in climate. We still do not have a complete handle on why we had ice ages. Now, if you want to be concerned, you want a disaster, having 2 miles of ice on your head is problematic.
Furthermore, oceans absorb almost 90% of the excess heat from the surrounding air, making it warmer. Although most of the heat is absorbed in the surface as the rate of warming increases, the heat permeates to deeper waters and harms marine ecosystems. Sea level rise is caused primarily by water from melting ice sheets and glaciers, and the expansion of seawater as it warms. Satellite observations indicate that the sea height is increasing rapidly and will continue to rise at an increasingly rapid pace. The rise in sea levels negatively affects the populace of coastal areas. It also plays a role in flooding and leads to an increase in storms. Climate change also leads to changes in the frequency, intensity, spatial extent, duration, and timing of weather and climate extremes. Some extreme weather events include floods, droughts, hurricanes, and heat waves.
And the trouble is, all of us scientists are government employees, even if we're working for private universities. All research is supported by the government. So as such, we're very sensitive to what politicians say and believe. Well, that's a shortcoming. You have to figure out how to fund science in a way that there are no incentives to artificially promoting things.
Natural sources and human activities both result in the emission of greenhouse gases. One of the most common ways these gases get released into the atmosphere is through the burning of fossil fuels. Burning coal or oil to run industrial processes or giant factories increases the concentration of atmospheric carbon dioxide. Indeed, fossil fuels' contribution to greenhouse gas emissions is the largest, in the range of 70 to 80% of total emissions.
My view is one has conflated the trivial, which is that temperature is changing, climate is changing, man plays some role. There's not much disagreement with predictions of disaster that are not connected clearly to warming or to our activities or to anything else, and leaving people with the thought that if the first part is true, the second part must be true. That is certainly not the case. And then to add insult to injury, to propose policies that would have nothing to do with any of it, but involve trillions of dollars and harm to many people, is, I think, crossing a line.
As you can imagine, climate change or global warming doesn't happen overnight. These changes occur over decades or even centuries. Thus, it stands to reason that it's impossible to either stop or completely reverse its effects in just a few weeks or months. However, as a community, we could do many things to slow down global warming and eventually embrace ways to stop or reverse it.
When you hear a Ban Ki-moon saying life as we know it will cease if we don't do something, what is he referring to? Although catastrophes certainly occur, they have many causes, of which global warming is one of the least. There are so many interesting questions in climate. Now, if you want to be concerned, you want a disaster, having 2 miles of ice on your head is problematic. And the Earth has had that.
Climate change is one of humanity's most severe and urgent challenges. As can be expected from anything that has a worldwide impact, climate change and global warming are often shrouded in controversy and competing narratives. With that in mind, let's begin by understanding what exactly climate change is and what makes it so dreadful for our planet.
It's very much a matter of the unchallengeable assertion. All religions have dogmas. Dogmas are not proven statements, they're assertions that cannot be challenged. It doesn't mean they're false. I'm not even suggesting that. I'm simply suggesting that it's a bad idea to have anything that can't be challenged.
There could be several causes for climate change, but the biggest one is the rising concentration of greenhouse gases. Simply put, greenhouse gases are those gases in our atmosphere that trap heat. Some examples include carbon dioxide, methane, chlorofluorocarbons, nitrous oxide, and ozone. How these gases affect climate change depends on their amount and their global warming potential, or GWP. This metric tells us how long a gas remains in the atmosphere, on average, and how strongly it absorbs energy. Naturally, gases with a higher GWP absorb more heat, and thus contribute more to increasing Earth's overall temperature, or in other words, warming it.
The Earth is always changing. Climate change is nothing you have to prove. It always is happening. It always has happened. So to make that into something alarming seems to me a little bit weird.